four types of behaviors that have been displayed by transformational leaders, such as idealized influence, inspirational motivation, intellectual stimulation, as well as individually and collectively consideration, which makes transformational leader charismatic. And when you look at what happened, for example, in Rwanda, you can now understand that the emergence of Paul Kagame as president was necessitated by the situation in that country and was able to mobilize his people to the extent that when you go to Rwanda, ask the taxi man from the airport, are you a Tutsi or a Hutu? He will tell you that I am a Rwandan. And that goes to show how a transformational leader can organize a society, can be effective in his leadership role. So in this case, our transactional leadership culture was such that perpetrates power distance between the leaders and the followers, with a kind of in-group collectivism and low performance orientation that are becoming more as a leadership culture. In this case, we can see role modeling and mentoring as two important components of raising transformational leaders. And in this case, transformational leaders are expected to create ideas and new perspective for new paths of growth and prosperity for their country or for their people. And then how then can role modeling and mentoring be effective in raising transitional leaders? How effective will it be? How should even who should even be a role model in the first place? And who should be mentored? And what are the level of preparation of the role model? What are the qualities of a good role model? And what are the qualities of effective mentee in order to learn the process of what is being expected? So in this case, we need to understand a role model as a person or persons who influence others by being showing a good example in terms of attitudes and behavior. And that is to say that a role model is somebody who set good standards for others to emulate. And one cannot give what one doesn't have. And in this case, for a role model to be effective, the role model, again, must have those qualities that will make him a good role model for others to now look upon one as somebody that somebody wants to be like him. And to raise transformational leaders, the role model, to me, must require to have a model of patriotism, of competence, of commitment, of courage, of boldness. And those that are the mentees must also learn, among others, such qualities of leadership as trust, accountability, hard work, integrity, positivity, and even persistence. And therefore, to be effective, we must collectively define who a role model is, the qualities expected of him or her, who should be the mentee, and what do we expect from a mentee. And therefore, we must begin by preparing the youth in their mindset in choosing role models, such as people who are prepared to superintend political and economic systems that are inclusive and offers opportunities for most people to create wealth. People that, and this must be people who envisions Nigeria as a developed nation, people who are willing to mobilize citizens to actualize the vision of the nation we want for the future. And these must be people with exceptional character and skills. And again, we must work to align the sense of identity of the mentor and those of the mentee for leadership or for this transformational leadership to emerge and be effective. And in this case, we can describe Nigeria as a plane where the pilots have not gone to any flying school, and we tend to blame the pilot for any mishap. So in this case, now that we are in search of transformational leaders, what we need to do, first of all, is to begin to establish academies that recruit and train leaders. But this will only be effective once we begin the foundation with an effective teaching of and understanding of Nigerian history. And it is only when you understand Nigerian history, where you are coming from, then you begin to chart the way forward. It may interest you, for example, to know that in my state, Kaduna State, for example, you're all aware that the Emir of Zazzau is now late, and the process of now getting another Emir is in high speed. And I read yesterday, the governor was saying he had to recourse reading a book written in 1960 by one anthropologist, M.G. Smith, on government in Zazzau, for him to understand even the effectiveness of how these things were done before, and therefore it will now guide him in doing what he thinks should be the right thing. And this is where the study of Nigerian history is very important as the foundation stone for getting effective transformational leaders in this country. And in conclusion, let me observe that Nigerians have leadership potential, but are inhibited by many factors. And many young people are hungry to learn and realize their potentials. And this is where they need respected role models to mentor them to navigate the complex challenges that we are all facing as a people. We need institutions with good curricula in making leaders to help in this situation. And our youth must have a good education as a foundation for any effective leadership recruitment and training, for any transformational leadership to be effective. And the capabilities must be developed in them, which must also be meshed with new leadership culture, because our leadership culture is such that needs serious transformation itself. And therefore, leadership must be made to be seen as a responsibility that is participatory in style and requires boldness and assertiveness, while also believing that we can change the circumstances of our helplessness. And this is where the mentoring will now be effective, and this is where we will be able to create a critical mass of people who believe that change is possible. And from this, we can be able to develop and get an effective transformational leadership for this country for the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Prof. Thank you so much. I knew we were going to get some lesson in history today when we got a professor in history to be one of our panelists. Thank you very much, Prof. Prof has laid it very bare to us. He has, of course, told us that he's not even, that we have to be careful when we say we are looking for transformational leaders. We have to be careful of what we wish for, because in history, those who wanted that have not gotten, they didn't get exactly what they bargained for. But however, he's saying that if we get the right kind of transformational leaders, they will provide intellectual stimulation. They will create ideas for development. And I think those are the things we are looking for in Nigeria. And Prof also mentioned that for this idea of role modeling and mentorship to work, that the mentors themselves, we have to be patriotic, because we are talking about building, raising transformational leaders. So for the mentor, he or she has to be patriotic first and foremost. It is important because you have to have national interest at heart. And then, of course, they should be committed. Everybody is busy. So when you accept to do something, you must do it and see it to the end. And then, of course, they will have courage, because it takes courage for you to refuse to join the bandwagon and do what is right at all times, so that you do not lead our youths astray. And then on the side of the mentees, they have to be very, very, very persistent, because your mentors are not going to take you as a full-time job. You have to be persistent to be able to garner the information and the knowledge and the training you require by being persistent in what you want. They also have to be passionate, and then they have to show integrity. You do not say you want to be mentored, and halfway down the road, you compromise the standards by which the mentor has raised for you or has set for you. There was a funny one that the prof mentioned here, which it's funny, but it's a bit frightening, when he says that Nigeria can be likened to a plane where the pilots have not gone to any flying school. It's a scary thought. But I believe that with the processes we have put in place through the Nigerian Prize for Leadership, we will get it right. And our pilots, our leaders, we go to a proper leadership flying school. And then he cautioned that we should always remember our history, that if we do not understand our history, know where we're coming from, we might just miss the mark when we begin to move forward. Thank you very much, Dr. Ashafa. That has been very, very enlightening. Really appreciate you. Like I said earlier, if you have questions, I hope you have been sending them to the chat box, because we are going to take them when we come back for the second session. At this point in time, I want to bring on board my co-moderator, the person of Dr. Ike Neleako. He's going to take on the rest of the panelists. I haven't introduced them. I want him to do the honors, and then we'll take it from there. Dr. Ike, are you ready?
Thank you very much, Madam Moderator. It's been a very exciting evening so far, and I look forward to even more exciting time. I am also happy to announce that we have our elders in the house, and at the appropriate time, we are going to give them the opportunity of sharing with us very briefly their thoughts on this subject matter, which I know they consider very seriously. Flanking off on this second session is a distinguished Nigerian, a man who chose the media as his main frontier and has lived to see his dreams come to pass. But I'm told that he still has more dreams, and I pray that he will realize all of them. He is the chairman of Channels Media Group, a gentleman who has been in broadcasting for a very long time until he decided to take the bull by the horn. He has paid his price. He has nurtured one of the best and biggest media organizations in Africa, winning the best TV station of the year for 12 record times. First to stream its news and programs live on the internet. First to interface with followers via Twitter, and first to have created mobile apps on various platforms. Join me to welcome a renowned broadcast journalist with vast experience spanning almost 4 decades. He is a Nigerian who loves the subject matter of leadership. He once told us that he is studying for his PhD in the area of leadership. Welcome, Mr. John Momo, officer of the Order of Niger. Thank you very much. You have the floor, sir.
Very much, Dr. Nlaku. It's my pleasure, and thank you for your kind words. Just a quick correction that we have won the award 13 times out of 17 times.
Okay.
South Africa's most
awarded television
station.
Thank you.
I'm always very excited to talk about leadership, and I'm very honored to be part of this platform, to join some of my senior ones, my senior colleagues in there, some of those people who have taught me, who have taken me through the rites of passage. And also, I didn't mention Dr. Awushika yesterday when we were talking, Professor Akinwode, and the others who are on the panel. It's indeed my honor and a privilege to be part of this platform. The subject of leadership is very timely. Usually at the end of the year, one tries to pause, take a step backward and look at the achievements of a country, of an individual, but because we are nearing the celebration of our 60th anniversary as a nation, this has become very necessary, and it's become compelling for us to take a look at ourselves, and that's why the subject is very germane. Leadership has so many definitions, but perhaps one of the best definitions that I've come across in recent times is one that anchors the definition of leadership on 3 principles, and that was by the late Miles Monroe, the evangelist, who says that there are 3 principles that leaders must have, that the motive of the leader is to work for the betterment of the people, and that true leadership must lead to change, and that change must translate to a better social life for the people. So if anyone says it's a leader, he should focus his mind on changing the environment, because you cannot be a leader and everything around you remains the same. So if you claim that you're a leader and nothing is changing around you, then you're not changing anything. You're simply managing, and you're not in the leadership seat. So that's very interesting. The other principle which the late Miles Monroe spoke about is that leaders must be against injustice. There are people who do not support any vision or process that encourages or perpetrates social injustice. And he says that the leader should never oppress the people, that the leaders, in fact, should set the people free, because they do not, for instance, inhibit the people. They try to deliver them from the inhibitors of life. So they help people to discover themselves, and they make sure that they let the people know that they have no limits to themselves. And any leader who doesn't do that, who tries to limit the people, is indeed not a leader. And the third principle which he mentioned is that leaders must always work on behalf of the people. That true leadership is always committed to the essence of life. In other words, it says, a leader believes in the noble values of lives, the value system. They never destroy or oppress people. Instead, they believe that you should rise to the higher calling of human beings. So this is very important. If you weigh that against what we have in our country, there are just a few good men and a few good women. And so why is the country in a cycle where, we're always going round and round, and we're not really achieving much in terms of leadership? It's because the few good men who are in position have been strangulated, and sooner or later they are choked out of the system because they're just a few voices. And so things must change. Now, it's very important for us to look at Nigeria and see if we can adopt these principles, which is not a rocket science. We should be able to do that at any time. But it looks as if that for the Nigerian state and for some of our leaders, what they are doing is to encourage the promotion of self. They do not look at other people. These are leaders who are waiting for things to happen. Leaders don't wait for things to happen. Leaders don't pray for change like most Nigerians do. Leaders make things happen. Leaders like Nelson Mandela, Obafemi Awolowo, Nnamdi Azikiwe, Steve Jobs, leaders like Martin Luther King Jr., they make things happen. They do not wait for change. Leaders are very, very careful also to protect their character. What's the character of the leadership that we have in the country? The young lady who spoke a moment ago spoke about the kind of character we have in the National Assembly. And this is not precluded to the National Assembly. Some captains of industry, in the civil service, in the various homes, we've spoken about parents, trying to help their wards to get ahead in marks, in exams. Those are not leadership qualities. So leaders are very careful, and they need at all times to protect their characters. Leaders know that shared values make a whole lot of difference, that they believe that the things of value which they know should and must be shared by the people. And that's very important. Leaders know that they cannot do it alone. They know that they have to work with others. They are very, very much driven. But at the same time, they are fully aware that they need to know how to get people into the fold, so that they will be able to help them to actualize the dream. They know that just one person cannot do it alone. So they get other people who are, in most cases, better than them, put them together, and help to actualize their dream. Leaders lead by example. They don't lead by instruction. They know that the legacy you have is the life you live. So leaders live by living what they say. Your yes is your yes, and your no is your no. If you tell that to your politicians, I don't think that will hold water. But leaders know that leadership is everyone's business. And a true leader is always driving other people to become more responsible and more independent, and to make people become leaders themselves. Which brings me to the issue that is ever so lacking in this country, and that's the issue of mentoring. Mentoring has been described as one of the greatest investments in the life of a people. It is so that you can invest others. You raise an army of people who will work so that they exceed what you have planned, have done, your legacies. And that's the true legacy, that you do not build buildings. Even if you build buildings, the buildings should be such that they will be able to help you to build people, and not just fanning your own embers. So true legacy is in people. True leadership is the key to our country, Nigeria. True leaders do not focus, as I said, on themselves, they focus on others. And I believe that's one of the ingredients that is lacking in Nigeria. Good leaders should employ the people, they should deploy themselves and others. They should use their authority and the power at their disposition to help people, for distribution, as they say. Leadership isn't measured by how many people serve you. These days, you find a lot of people with a retinue of officials, aides, a long list of people, a large convoy. Leadership instead is measured by how many people you serve. It's the other way around. So true leaders learn from others, but they never become one. They never become those people that they learn from. They try to carve their own niche. They try to be better than the others, and they try to develop others to be better than themselves. Because you're a leader, if you want to be a true leader, then you do not think about the next position. You think about the next generation, which is what is missing in this country. How are we thinking about the next generation in Nigeria? How are we thinking about the northeast of Nigeria and the children who are orphaned? How are we thinking about the IDPs and the IDP camps, the women and the children who are homeless, who have no homes, who have no food, who have no security. A good leader must think about such things. A good leader must think about providing facilities for people to enjoy. Education, health, you name it. We've heard these things before, and many of us know it. So mentoring, which is missing, as I said, is the greatest act of leadership. And if you acquire and you achieve knowledge and you keep them to yourselves, and those things die with you, then you fail as a leader. So there's need for us to train people, to make sure that we transfer the knowledge we have, to make sure that we build people that are with us. And the question is, each and every one of us should ask ourselves, who are we training today? Who are we building today? What is the legacy that we are living? Because mentoring is the manifestation of the highest level of maturity. People who are mature are the ones who will want other people to be greater than themselves. Who are we training to be greater than us today? So these are some of the key questions. We need leaders who are more interested in people and more and less themselves. I mentioned Nelson Mandela, who said true leaders do not seek followers, that followers are attracted to great leaders. And I'm sure that was mentioned a moment ago by one of the panelists. Leadership isn't a right, it's a privilege. Its success is measured by the success of your successor. So you must at all times try to achieve that by making sure that whoever has taken over from you, whoever you're mentoring, must be able to be somebody you can point at tomorrow and say, that person is going to carry that legacy forward and be better than where I started from.
You will need to round up at this point, sir.
So in essence, the questions to ask is, who are we? Are we leaders? Are we doing the right things? What are our characters? What is our goal? What is our mission? Are we purpose-driven? Are we focused? Are we able to combine all the things at our disposal to make sure that we impact on people positively? By so doing, if we're able to get all this right and tick everything as yes, then of course we'll just be starting to be getting this.
Thank you very much. Thank you very, very much on that note. It's been a very, very interesting presentation from Mr. John Momo. He talked about the 3 principles of leadership advanced by the late Miles Monroe. One, he talked about motive. The motive of the leader is very critical because that is what makes the leader to effect change and ensure better social life. Otherwise, in Nigeria Prize for Leadership, we call it impact on society. Leader must make impact on society. He talked about the fact that leaders are against social injustice. Leaders are liberators. They help people to develop themselves and actualize their destinies. Leaders appreciate the value of life. They don't supervise the killing of and taking of other lives. Number 3, leaders work for the good of the people. Very important. And this is a very important way for measuring strategic leadership. And he mentioned that unfortunately in our climate, we have few men and few women who are good leaders. And as a result of that, they are in the minority. And being in the minority, they are being choked out. Therefore, we need a reverse, a situation where we have more people who are good, who are in leadership, so that they can overcome the influences of the evil men and women who occupy leadership situation. And unfortunately, for that to happen, we must go back to the issue of recruitment. How do we recruit our leaders? How do we bring up these people that lead us? And then he said that leaders must think about the next generation. Hence, the concept of mentoring and role modeling. Thank you very much, Mr. Momo. We will now proceed to this next youth in our midst, a lady who started quite early also. She founded the Foundation for Drug Abuse and Mental Health Awareness. She's also a conflict resolution specialist. She writes for daily Nigerian newspaper on conflict resolution topics and gender issues. Her first degree is in political science and international relations from the University of Abuja. She went further to acquire 2 master's degrees, one in international affairs and strategic studies, and the other one in conflict resolution, security, and development. She is the country director and ambassador for an American NGO, Girls Learning the Only Way, GLOW. She is also a youth ambassador for the National Initiative for Dialogue and Development. Currently, she serves as Senior Assistant Registrar in charge of student affairs at Base University. She's a Mandela Washington Fellow in 2009 for Young African Leaders. That means she's a model herself. Join me to welcome Miss Rukaya Ibrahim Eyayi. Miss Rukaya, you have the floor for 10 minutes. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for having me today. And I feel so privileged to be invited with this amazing speakers that, like, I have to go check for your bios, and it's so amazing to be on a panel with you people. You're really a role models that we look up to. But I really want to thank the organizers of this event. I think we need more of this because of the deficiency of leadership. And Dr. Ike, you especially, and your wife, I really want to thank you on this panel for the job and to subconsciously, but I think we took the role modeling thing consciously when it comes to you. Well, you did it subconsciously without even noticing about it. And thank you so much. So earlier on, I would like to talk more about history. Like Professor Ashafa said, he spoke about history, our heroes past. I think that's why it's very important, like generation change, and our past leaders are not always right. When you look at how Nigerian leaders and our past leaders, when it comes before independence, Awolowo, Zik, they were realized when to their leadership, it was about their region and their people, and up till now, so I think it's important, like every leader should be transformative with time, because time changes and situation changes and circumstances changes. So a good leader should change with those things, and that's why we need a transformative leader that is disruptive, that will change a system so that it will occupy everything. I like what he said about patriotism. Right now, we can't be regionalist. We have to be patriotic. We have to be. So in order to be that, we have to disrupt some of our legacies or policies they think at that time it was the right thing for them to do. So I'm talking about like transformative leader and how disruptive now. So I mean, every leader, you are a leader if you can influence. I don't think everyone in the place of authority is a leader. There are a lot of people that are in place of authority, but I think while I really agree that we have leadership deficiency because we don't have values in our society, we have lost our values as a society. What are these values? What is Nigerian value? Where is the honesty? Where is the integrity? Those we see at authority places, culture. We grew up seeing those hard work are rewarded, hard work are not rewarded and mediocrity is cheered, kind of thing. So the youth now is a chaotic world for us youth, because there is so much information out there, there is so much role models to look up to, but they are the wrong role models or the wrong information. So right now there are the Kardashians. When you're on your TV, it's all about the nudity, fame, basically little hard work. And then there are our people that are there, like Elijah, the honorable man that beat up a woman in a sex toy shop. He's still there. He's still employed by some of his people. Then there are another people like Dino Malai, like he's there oppressing us with his cars, without really a job. His job was to occupy a position. So when we look at leadership as a primary source of income, it will never ever be transformative. We should look at leadership as a purpose. Like, it's my calling. I need to change the narratives. I need to make impact. I need to change the situation of the people. But when leadership keeps getting to where it's a primary source of income, then those in the leadership will never ever want to leave that position, and will never ever want to train someone that will come and take after them, because it's all they have, it's all they are holding on to. So right now in Nigeria, I hate to say that, but I think it's an intergenerational conflict. It's us versus them. At 30 now, you are always saying the leaders of tomorrow, the leaders of tomorrow. Tomorrow, my tomorrow starts today. It starts now. And I'm still where I am now, because there are people that are my grandparents' generation that are still holding on to these seats. As a woman and as a youth, it's very difficult. The women up there are very little, and then there is so much competition between them to reserve their seats of power. So there is so much competition between the women in power and those upcoming women that are looking up to them. There is no mentorship at all, deliberately, because they don't want to leave that space, because it's a primary source of income. So I think there is a high need to shift the paradigm of leadership from prize leadership to service leadership, but then transformative leadership cannot be created without learning, relearning, and unlearning. So we need to learn from our past leaders' mistake in order to make the future better. So I feel a leader that is different, because a leader has to be empathetic. It's not about the office you hold. I like what Chimdi said. We all have that leadership in us. We all have that role model within us. So it's how you really channel it and who you channel it to. There are people that have been role model through thuggery. Especially during elections, there are people that have been doing role modeling through godfatherism. I like godfatherism. It's a way of role modeling, but right now Nigerian godfatherism is actually very toxic, because the end justify the means, and they do whatever it is to maintain the status quo. And that is still back to because leadership is seen as a career, as a primary source of income, not a purpose. So I feel the society as a whole, we need to change our culture, because our culture breeds our experiences. Our experiences foster our beliefs. Our beliefs influence our actions, and our action produce results. So you see the youths getting very confused, because what they really know is mediocrity and how mediocrity is being shared. And so they hold on to that aspect of it. Now the question is, who should be our role models? Who is a role model? This question is important because it depends on your value as an individual and what you value most as an individual. there are, like I said earlier, there is so much information, there is so much people to look up to. So now, how do we guide ourselves to choose the right role model, and how do we, I don't know. So I think at the end of it all is like, I like what Prof said earlier, you cannot give what you don't have. That's true. But then again, even while giving, you have to refill your cup, because at the end of the day, if you are not refilling it, it will become empty. So while you give, you refill through learning. And I would like to say, like, leaders don't know it all, because you can't just know it all. You can never know it all. So there is huge gap between intergenerational leadership. There has to be some intergenerational leadership and cooperation. This is the only way that our youth can be guided to choose the real role models, or not real, like the ideal role models they should have when there is intergenerational cooperation in the society. I'm not even talking about intergenerational leadership. I'll come there, but intergenerational leadership, we need to have youth at the decision-making table, not just youth, I mean, even gender at the decision-making table. You can't have a bunch of 8 men with 2 women making decision on abortion. Like, it's women's experience. They should make those decisions themselves. They should take in charge and take spaces in those spaces. So I will round up here. I don't think my time is up, but I think I have said enough for what I have. So thank you so much for having me, and I'm delighted.
Thank you. Thank you very, very much, Rukaya. We've talked about the issue of transforming from regional patronage to national leadership framework. In other words, we must not just keep celebrating our regional strength, but we should think national. You talked about the fact that not everyone in place of authority is a leader, and this is very important. Most times, those we have occupying leadership positions are really not leaders. Mr. John Momo calls some of them managers, and managers cannot be leaders as it would be. I remember that Professor Pato Tommy shared with us an experience. Immediately after the President Chief of Staff was appointed, he said somebody called him from one of the states in the South and said, "Professor, now that a professor has been appointed as Chief of Staff, I want you to help me to get an appointment." And he said that appointment is to be a DG of one of the parastatals. And when Professor Pato Tommy asked him, "What is your qualification?" he laughed and said, "Qualification? Did they use qualification to get an appointment in Nigeria?" And that was a very important statement. Do you use qualification to get? So Rukaya is reminding us that not everyone in authority is a leader. And that's something we have to make a conscious effort. We have elevated mediocrity to a certain level, that mediocrity will start rejecting us because he has had enough of us. We have oppressive leaders. One thing that I see with the young people is that they are very clear in naming and shaming those that they don't feel that represent them as leaders. She mentioned 2 names. I don't want to go into that since she has already said so, but it shows very clearly that they know the kind of leaders they want people, not those that don't represent what they believe in. Issues. She took it on frontiers. She recognized the issue of intergenerational conflicts, but at the same time, she acknowledges that unless there is a strategic collaboration between the elderly and the young people, and this is very important, the young people have the energy and the creativity. Elders have the network, they have the experience, and they have the wisdom. And it's a combination of these two that will give Nigeria the kind of leadership and development that it deserves. Our leadership culture must be looked at again. We need to have a changed leadership culture. We must acknowledge when people are good and also say so when they are not doing well. She talked about the toxic nature of godfatherism. Although she acknowledged that godfatherism is not a bad concept on its own, but the way we have used it in Nigeria, unfortunately, has not augured well for the nation. Thank you very much, Rukaya. I will now go to the last, but not the least, of our panelists. He's a gentleman who retired from the Nigerian Army as a brigadier general. He headed the Directorate of Public Relations of the Nigerian Army. Indeed, he's a fellow of the Nigerian Institute of Public Relations. He's a fellow of African Public Relations Association. But more importantly, it's important to note that he's a member of the National Institute. Today, he's a practicing PR communication expert. He runs Mahangi Communication Services, and he's also a consulting director at in charge of corporate affairs and information at Nigerian Army Resource Center. That means they have not allowed him to go somehow. He holds a bachelor's degree in arts he holds a Bachelor of Arts degree in mass communication and a Master of Arts degree in media, peace and conflict studies from Bayero University, Kano, and the United Nations mandated University for Peace at San Jose. The gentleman, I'm going to mention his name, has done so well for this country in serving his fatherland as a distinguished soldier, a statesman. Join me to welcome Brigadier General S.K. Usman, retired, MNI, FNIPR, FAPRA. General Usman, you have the floor for 10 minutes to share with us your experiences in the armed forces, how you have raised people, how you have been a good role model to so many of them. You have the floor, sir.
Thank you very much, Mr. Moderator, distinguished panelists, and of course, those who have joined us to share with us this moment. I'm really grateful for the opportunity to be part of the panel of discussants on the 5th edition of the Nigerian Prize for Leadership Dialogue Series, which is dwelling on role modeling, mentoring, and of course, to look at even prospects for raising transformational leaders in our country. We come about this because of the noted problem about leadership. And today, more than ever before, there is an increasing recognition of the importance and the need for role models and transformational leaders in various spheres of human endeavors, either in business, governance, politics, and even professional groups. And unfortunately, in this part of the world, most organizations do not even understand the importance of mentoring and grooming younger ones for subordinates to take over the leadership of their establishment, let alone involving the culture of nurturing the novelty of transformational leaders. Though the issue of succession, maintenance of standard and value have all become problematic, people like to perpetuate themselves in offices. Consequently, there is a high mortality rate. There is high mortality rates of leadership in business, in politics, and professional groups, thereby frustrating those with huge potentials and qualities to lead and transform our society. Particularly, the youth are mostly affected by this anomaly, and various reasons have been given, for this development. But I think the most important aspect of it is the problem of corruption in our society. Large, ignorance and poor leadership style of most of our leaders or those in the helms of affairs. And the larger society also has its own fair share of blame for not laying the foundation for leadership, talk less of transformational leaders, and setting standards for those leaders. And indeed, it's today, in today's world and in our society, and when I mean society, our society, I'm talking about Nigeria in general. Either group or organization, continuity and long-term successions, or success to a large extent, depend on the kind of leadership any organization, any society, or any community has. So in every institution or organization, leaders motivate, inspire others who will in turn learn, acquire, and imbibe good leadership qualities and skills that will help the organization, business, or society to thrive or aspire to greater heights. However, despite this importance, despite the importance of this, of mentoring, leadership, or role modeling, most organizations and companies, including businesses, surprisingly, have not paid desired attention to it. More so, as the concept of transformational leadership remains a novelty and has received minimal attention from various stakeholders. Mentoring on its part, for instance, is essential in leadership development. Transformational leaders empower followers and promote commitment to ideals that create an enabling environment for continuity and development. The issues are essentially on how transformational leadership is cultivated and impacted on subordinates. It is on this that different leaders have evolved means and approaches to mentor, develop, and transform leaders. And I'm so happy for this opportunity to discuss this issue that has been the bane that staunch development in our Nigerian society. And to mitigate the deaths of mentoring, role modeling, and transformational leadership, we really need to ensure that all segments of Nigerian society play their roles accordingly. Is it the family? Is it the school? Is it the religious bodies, professional groups, and the media, as well as the government? There should be deliberate policies, and that encourage persons, organizations to have sustainable leadership and mentoring plans in this country. We should recalibrate our educational system and must emphasize on good governance, strengthening of institutions, revive exchange and training programs, promote good value system, which our nation is noted for. We need to encourage, reward, and punish those with bad behaviors. There should be more enlightenment program through seminars, training, workshops, summits on leadership. And our recruitment system, I'm so glad somebody has mentioned it. The recruitment system and the criteria into public service need to be reviewed and reinvigorated to all for the employment of the right people that could be groomed and molded into transformational leaders. I am coming from the background of the military. Now the military has been doing the best it could. But again, the standard of training, the years of training has not taken into cognizance the changes in the value system of the Nigerian society. So it is very difficult. In NDA, before you used to train an officer cadet for 3 years, now it has been, increased to 5 years. But yet the value system of Nigerian society kept on changing, and we have to accommodate it. And that is why you kept on having problems of leadership that we're having. There are high prospects really for growing and sustaining, new generation of transformational leaders in Nigeria. However, this to a large extent is depending on the fact that we need to set criteria. The prospects is high, but needs to be based on specific criteria. And that can be worked out by stakeholders, particularly the Nigerian players for leadership. And we have to look at the value system. The society must have an essential value that is not negotiable. I am so glad, particularly the youth, they have talked about some people that are not best example. but it's just talk. What has the society done to, because in fact, I had cause to ask somebody to remove a post about a particular high profile individual because of his lavish lifestyle without legible, visible and honest means of livelihood. And people may tend to take dressing from such people. And I think it's not good at all. Then we have to look at the qualities. The individual to be mentored or to be tutored must possess qualities that like knowledge, discipline, hardworking, patriotism, being a team player, and positive attitude to change and work. It will be useless for you to keep on preaching to people that are not interested, particularly the use of nowadays. Some of them, they don't look at the processes that make people what they are. Take, for instance, Professor Awosika has mentioned, Dr. Awosika has made mention, instances as a mother, as a wife, as a chief executive had cause to sleep in the office or keep late at the office. And if you look at the effort being put by the various erudite professors on this platform and, the chief executive officer of Channels Television, people will just look at it as if Joe Bomo just grew up out of the sky. No, he has once been a reporter that goes hungry without even thinks that he needed to do his job. But today, he is one of the role models we have. So it takes such, process to do that. And then selfless service. We must have people that are ready to serve rather than those. We should rather articulate or emphasize on ability to serve than willingness to serve. And whoever that is going to be a leader must have communication ability. You must have vision, you must believe, and you must connect, with the national interest for the overall interest of the Nigerian society. And indeed, there is need to identify, groom, train, and mentor interested young men and women in Nigeria on the rudiments and tenets of transformational leadership. Our youth are very active and they want more, as we can see by the exposition by the youth on this platform. But most of our youth lack sense of direction because of lack of those leaders that will serve as role models, mentors, to nurture them for better performance and responsibility. And sadly so, some of the young men and women lack vision, patriotism, and have this strong misplaced drive to get rich by all means. They don't know that there are processes involved. Their motives mostly and goals are very scary, honestly, if you have interaction with them. But thankfully, it is not all of them. There are very enterprising people who are ready to be mentored. And in the present times, practical and transformational leaders are needed to motivate and inspire others to take over and advance the cause of our society or our country to a greater height. And I'm so sure that I still have time, but I think I would like to stop here so that in the course of discussion, we can be able to talk on some of the issues, possibly my personal experience in, leadership as the Director of Army Public Relations, or people who I had the privilege, unknowingly in most cases, that I've mentored and served as moral model to them. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much, General Usman. Thank you for the points that you have made. You reminded us that we have 5 major challenges with our leadership. We talked about the challenge of successorship. We've not been able to sort it out very well, how we raise successors. We talked about the challenge of corruption in our system, especially amongst our leaders. We talked about the challenge of wrong foundational leadership. That is an area that is very deficient. We talked about the challenge of weak institutions and that we must endeavor to strengthen our institutions to stand upright. We talked about the challenge of recruitment and employment processes into our public service, and that we should have a clear criteria, not just that we have what we follow in the books, but we must come to a point that we emphasize this criteria very well so that we'll be able to recruit the right people into our systems. You also now told us that the youths lack direction because of wrong role modeling, and that this is an area that Nigeria Prize for Leadership will have to look at. And I want to confirm to you, sir, that indeed we are looking at it. This is why we are doing this, and I'm glad to say that we are not just doing this alone. We have about 21 organizations who are partnering with us and 9 media partners as well. I would like to, at this point, acknowledge the Committee of Vice Chancellors of Nigerian Universities who are partnering with us, and they are represented here, the Nigerian Academy of Science, the Nigerian Institute of Public Relations, the Nigerian Economic Summit Group, Women in Business, Nigeria Guild of Editors, Historical Society of Nigeria, Center for Values in Leadership, Trade Union Congress. They are on the screen. All of them are on the screen. Plummet Publishing, LIP Africa, International Federation of Female Lawyers, Women Foundation of Nigeria, Women in Successful Careers, National Youth Council of Nigeria, National Association of Nigerian Students, Broadcasting Organizations of Nigeria, Trade Union Congress, the Albino Foundation, Joint Association of People with Disabilities, and several of them. And for our media partners, we would like to really appreciate the NTA, Channels Television, AIT, News Agency of Nigeria, Arise Television, Cool FM, Flick On Digital Converge, Armed Forces Radio, and I would like to, at this point, acknowledge very strongly AD4. It's an online television radio outfit, AD4 TV radio. These people have been giving us live streaming on their network across YouTube, across all kinds of platforms. We want to appreciate them indeed, and we want to appreciate all our partners. We have to move on. While the main moderator is putting together the series for questions and comments, I would like to bring on at this point some of our elders who have worked for this country, and I believe they have some advice to give to our young people who are on this platform. I would like to invite Professor Jerry Ghana to say a few words. I would like to thereafter invite Dr. Christopher Collade, our father in the house, and thereafter the chairman of the governing board, Nigerian Prize for Leadership, who is also here, and then our big mama, who has always been with us all through, Mrs., or rather, as she prefers, Iyom Josephine Aneni, so that they can chip in a few things before we now go into the charts. We are going to read out all the charts, and then we'll now invite some other people to make a few comments if we have the time before going back to the panelists, and then we call it a day. If Professor Jerry Ghana is ready, sir, you have the floor just to say a few words thereafter. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Moderator. I was just standing by, enjoying myself with the tremendous, panel. Let me congratulate the panelists. Been impressive, very deep, very profound, and really express the issues very, very clearly. I'm also very excited with the participation, the spread of participation. So this has been very successful, very impressive, and one sees a hunger among the Nigerian populace, a hunger for good leadership, a hunger for making sure that leaders really lead in such a way that they transform the environment of those people are being led, so that there's a service, qualitative service, there is impact. So I just want to thank our panelists for expressing this issue so very, very clearly. I don't want to go into the individual. I've been enjoying myself. Nigeria is full of talents. I'm so excited. I'm so delighted. And thank you very much, Nigerian Prize for Leadership, for providing this forum. I want to thank the moderators for today, the lady and Of course, Dr. Ikenele-Aku, you are doing an excellent job, and we wish you well. I don't want to go specifically in terms of some of the other comments, but just to say this is very impressive. I pray that we shall translate it into some action to change the narrative about leadership in Nigeria. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. Can we have our elder, our father, His Excellency, Dr. Christopher Kolade? You have the floor, sir. Technical team. Okay, if he's not ready, can we have Professor Anya O. Anya, the chairman of the governing board, say a few words?
You're correct, they're seeing me.
Yes, I see you.
Well, good evening, everyone.
Good evening, sir.
There are just two things I want to point to that I've learned this evening. First has to do with our youth. They've served us notice that even when they do not express their views on the things they see, but they do take notes. And they not only take notes, they also do say what ought to be, which means they have their conception of what leadership should be about. And they've shown that they have the courage of their convictions. The example that was given about our deputy president of the Senate, about our speaker, those are things that are in the public square, but nobody has come to say, yes, despite this and that, these are now the reasons why they have been redeemed. So it's important that we, the elders, recognize that we don't fool the young ones and that their values are right, despite our efforts to confuse them. The second point I want to make is that the change into the right kind of leadership in any society is not an accident. It is a deliberate effort by the leadership to not only inculcate the right values, but also to create a situation where these values are sustainable and transferable to the younger generation. About 40 years ago, the Chinese, after the tumult of the years, the Communist Party and the rest of it, they came to the conclusion that there must be a generational change every 10 years. And what happens is that every 10 years, they select young, brighter people in various professions, but coming up into leadership. And they give them the opportunity to learn and to, as it were, do the things that ought to be. But the quality, the emphasis is there must be excellence and there must be good quality morals. When they have gone through the period of training for 10 years, they are now the people who are inducted to, into the next cadre of leadership. Xi, the current president of China, went through that. In other words, those who finally come to leadership positions in China tend to be those who are the best in their generation, and tend to be those who the society, the leadership consciously train them to take over from them when the time is right. In our country, the danger is that even if we stumble on the best and the brightest and give them leadership positions, our inability to sustain any good long
more up to.
We can't hear Prof again. Have we lost him? Technical?
Prof should please unmute himself to continue.
Oh, Prof.
Yes.
Prof.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you, sir. You may wish to conclude, sir. We can hear you now.
Well, there are two important things to say. First, yes. First, the young ones, we thank you that you are not only observing us and taking notes, but you have the courage of your conviction to say this is right, this is not quite right. Second, the elders. We must recognize that the young ones are looking up to us and that we must have a conscious plan, not only to train them, but to create a succession plan so that leadership, but it depends upon the values that we uphold in the country. But the changes are coming. And I'm sure that Nigeria 5 years from now, 10 years from now, will be very different from the Nigeria of today, despite all the problems that we face. Thank you very much, young people.
Thank you, sir.
Look forward to you having a better Nigeria
Amen.
than we have at present.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you. The technical team is reminding me that we are running out of time, but I have already mentioned Iyom Josephine and Neni. Madam, please, you have the floor. Make it brief so that we can now go back to the panelists. Thank you very much, ma'am.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Neliaku, for giving me the floor. I enjoyed today a lot because I learned and I unlearned. According to Rukia, I learned a lot and I learned a lot of, and I learned many things. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Hear me? Hello, are you hearing me?
We can hear you.
I want to thank especially the young ladies that spoke, Rukia and Chimdi. They gave me hope because we are 60 years old now, and at 60, you are an elder. At 65, you're elderly. By 70, you are going senile, if you are not lucky. So if Nigeria is at that stage, I was losing hope that there was no hope for Nigeria. But after hearing the young ones, I was revived. I know that Nigeria will survive. And I want to tell them, which they already know, that power is not given by anybody. They have to take it. They have all it takes, and they know what to do better than the older ones. If we knew, we won't be at the streets where we are now. Obviously, we didn't know power. I'm asking the young ones to have more confidence in the youth than in the aging and passing generation. I thank ourselves, me included. We did our best, but our best was not good enough for Nigeria. We must be able to own up to that. We didn't do very well. 60 years and we are still crawling. It's a shame. But I thank God that we have young people who know what to do. They have been watching and they are very discerning and they know the solution. So I want to encourage them to please go on. Thank you, NPL, for what you are doing. If you notice at the participation, a lot of people are tuning in, both on Zoom and on Facebook, and you are making a tremendous impact. And of course, reaching that young generation who are using all this media. So kudos to NPL. And thank you, Professor Anya, Professor Jerry Gana, Neliaku. God bless all of you.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Thank you. On that note, I will now hand over to the main moderator for the day, Mrs. Mercy Eluemono. I am so sorry that we are not able to take some of the comments we wanted to take from some of our partners as we normally do. We felt that it's better to have a robust platform of panelists so that we can hear from different people from different backgrounds representing different generations. So our time is really running out. We have to now go back to the main moderator so that she will invite the panelists to respond to some of the issues raised, respond to some of the questions on the platform, some of the chats that we have. But if she's not ready, I'll quickly read through. Are you ready, madam? Otherwise, I'll read through some of the chats. Okay, so over to you.
We're ready with some of the queries and the questions and observations.
Okay.
The first one we go to Prof. Oyebode, and the person, Chidi Eliaza Chiemere, is saying, in regards to leadership recruitment, what was mentioned, looking at the Nigerian political scenario, such grooming by older leaders usually results in godfatherism, where the groomed leaders or godsons will be answerable to them after being elected into power. What can be done to curb the negative effects of godfatherism while promoting the grooming of young leaders in Nigeria? Prof, you will take that question for us. And then there's another one that says, the place of grooming cannot be overemphasized. What proactive steps can the NPL, as speakers and panelists, take or offer for us to connect young people with renowned leaders, not rulers, please, for grooming and mentorship? I think any of the panelists can take that question. And then there's one more. I believe leadership starts with us, like Dr. Awoshika said earlier. This is from, sorry, he didn't put his name here. And he says that the NPL should create more awareness for the public, as this topic is important and would go a long way in nation building. I think any of our panelists can also throw more light on that.
Okay,
So
while you're sorting out, there is one from Joe Ibe, and he raised some questions. How can we change from just talking about our leadership challenges to evidence action-based activities that address these challenges? A, when laws in the society are observed in breach. B, we politicize every aspect of leadership in our society, including our history. And C, a culture that promotes dishonesty and punishes integrity. These are some of the questions. I think we can have the panelists come in at this point. Back to you, madam.
I think the panelists should, starting from Professor Oyebode, you can answer, you have to throw more light on that question. What can be done to curb the negative effects of godfatherism while promoting the grooming of young leaders in Prof, you can respond to that, please.
Yes, I'm just unmuting.
Okay, sir.
Now, my culture as a Yoruba person is that it is the egg that develops into the cock. Okay, so there's nothing wrong in young people succeeding the aged, and there comes a time when people are so aged they just have to yield to the young people. But we have to interact one with another. I taught for more than 44 years in the university. And I usually proudly announce that my former students include more than 70 senior advocates of Nigeria, countless judges at all levels, from the Supreme Court to even the lowliest customary court. Then professors have taught about 40 professors of law, and I'm since retired. So I wouldn't last in the classroom forever. People younger than myself have taken over the tradition, and I can only wish them well. Now, the succession plan, because it seems we are focusing just on political leadership, is that the godsons are held hostage by their godfathers. It should not necessarily be so. Godfathers, there always will be, but the godfathers have to develop a large heart and the mindset to move away whilst their godsons are on the center stage. Unfortunately for us, it seems the elder ones or elderly ones, to borrow Eyom's language, because I now learned that there's a distinction between old, elderly, and senile. I'm in my early 70s, so I don't know whether I'm senile now. But
No, you're
I
not.
said, but I can very proudly look at what my former students have been doing. And a judge, one of them from out of state, told me that if I read his judgments, I would see my language in his judgments, and I felt really humble. So the same thing, there should be a transitional process in terms of passing on the baton of leadership from the older generation to the younger ones. And if we insist that the younger ones hold tight to the tenets of leadership, just like the MPL is saying, because I know the MPL has as part of his work, mentorship, including even prizes for young mentees. I think like Eyom said, we should not lose hope. The better is yet to come for this country. I want to end on that optimistic note. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Prof. I have another question. How can we change from just talking about our leadership challenges to evidence and action-based activities that address these challenges? I think any of our panelists can answer that.
Well, maybe
I want.
Okay, go on.
I want Professor Ashapa to answer that.
Okay.
Yes, sorry, I have to get out of the office because there is no light. I have to stay in my car. This is an interesting question, looking at the fact that in Nigeria, we are so much used to this talk shop. We talk and then get out of the hole and then nothing comes out of it. And the question is saying, how can we go beyond this talk shop towards evidence-based activities for to get an effective transformational leadership? First of all, I will want to say that we should not restrict ourselves to saying that government must do everything for us. As individuals, as organizations, we need to come together. We should begin to think of what to do. And under the auspices of the Nigerian Leadership Prize for Leadership, I think we can begin to think of even establishing an informal academy and engaging those people that matters, those people that we can share the same feeling. There are those in government that have the same feeling with most of us, only that the environment is not conducive for us to do what is required of them. And I think we can begin at this level, identify some of them. We have senior people who can talk to others in and out of government to begin to look at how we can now walk the talk. Because talking and then going without any evidence-based activities to ensure that we effectively grasp what the kind of change we want, the kind of country we want to build, and the kind of future we also want and for our youth, we may not get anywhere. We'll continue to go around a gyration of cycle of ineffectiveness. So what I'm trying to say is that we can approach these through evidence-based activities, through a kind of workshop, either at largely at the regional level. We can begin at regional level. We have 6 geopolitical zones. We can begin to mobilize resources. For example, I can see a lot of people who have joined in this this webinar. If we say each should contribute like any amount, 500, 1,000, at least on each day that we are having this webinar, at least over time, and approaching some institutions with corporate social responsibilities, I think we should begin to organize regional workshops in the first instance for these evidence-based activities to be effective.
Thank you so much, Prof. Thank you very much. This question now goes to doctor in the house, Dr. Awoshika. Over 80% of young people in Nigeria live in undesirable community environments. If these set of individuals are not accounted for, having the Nigeria of our dream may be a mirage. How do we mentor these young people growing up in these unsavory communities? Dr. Awoshika.
Thank you very much, Madam Moderator.
And from there, you can have your closing remark, man.
Pardon?
From there, you can then give us your closing remark.
Okay, thank you,
right.
Doctor. Very, very important question, because the question has to do with the total impact of transformational leadership and relating to good governance. Good governance makes an accountability for every citizen. We are blessed in this nation. We have about 200 million people. And a great percentage of that are youths. Everyone needs to be accounted for in terms of values, in terms of responsibilities, in terms of contribution. You can go on and on like that. How do we account for them? We account for them by having good governance. They also, like we discussed, transformational leadership is about engagement of followership as well as leadership. The two must go together. And we've had quite a lot of examples of how we can engage people around the corner, around on this platform. I've heard also the youth speak, and like Mrs. Josephine Neni, it gave me hope. But then after all of this and looking at all the people, accountability and everything, I began to think, how did we get here? In the early days, post-independence, and just before independence, the leaders were very young, and they were old people in the nation, yet the leaders were very young. What kind of system did we adopt? The system then was a system that takes the people as the greatest resource of the nation, not the money. So accountability starts with leaders and followership. Accountability starts with re-engaging values for our nation, Nigeria. And when we do this, there will now be a very good criteria to determining who leads from the very ward level. This country has about 9,556 wards. And in every ward, there's a political leadership. So accounting for our people is not a big deal as much as ensuring that good governance right from the ward level to the local government, to the senatorial zones. These structures are not for nothing. These structures are put there to be able to drive a transparent, accountable system. But are we using it? No. You hear most people talk about if there's a problem in the nation today, say Buhari. What about your local government chairman? What about your political ward head? What about your senatorial, the senator in your place? What about the local government chairman? And so on. What about all these people? What about the governors? What about the minister that constitutionally represents your state? The Constitution says, appoint a minister from every state. So in every state, there is a minister. Who are they ministering to? Who are they accountable to? Who are they representing? Were they chosen just on their own basis, or they are brought there on the basis of the fact that they are from state A? Therefore, things that concerns that state concerns them. They must be able at the executive level where they serve to harmonize and ensure that there is equity and justice. And I just want to say this last, that let us take a look at our coat of arms. We talk a lot about national anthem, beautiful, very lovely. There's a lot of accountability in it. But the coat of arms of Nigeria, unity, faith. If we could just put on the coat of justice, peace, and unity, we will be able to account for everyone in all respects, whether young or old. And in terms of leadership, it will evolve by us aligning to our responsibility of service, of sacrifice, of selflessness in preferring an exemplary leadership in all of its connotations. And I hope we see this very soon in Nigeria, where we're driven by values that all the people in the past have been driven at the early age of the independence of this country. I know we talk about northern and southern regional leadership, but when you look at the real system that we're driving, there were too many young people. We can call them today and you will hear their names. I mean, there are so many of them. They were in their 20s and in their 30s and so on. What went wrong is what I will advise that the Nigerian Prize for Leadership will begin to look into. What went wrong? Why must somebody be guided by age to be able to lead and not by what he can offer? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Thank you so much. Very profound, those words. If we could only put on the tenets coat of arms represents, we would go a long way. Thank you so much. I'm going to take one last question. And before I do that, I will apologize that we cannot take all the questions online, but we are going to answer all your questions and share them offline. So the last question is going to Mr. John Momo, and the question is, sir, what can be done by leaders to keep the fire of leadership burning? And are there institutions or bodies that you may recommend for true leadership and mentorship? And sir, as you take that, you just give us closing words. Thank you. Mr. John Momo, please. platform?
It appears that he's not ready. Maybe you can take somebody else because of time.
Okay. Okay, fine. So we can have the fellow of the Institute of NIPR, Brigadier General S.K. Usman. Please give us the response to that question. What can be done by leaders to keep the fire of leadership burning? And are there institutions or bodies that you may recommend for true leadership and mentorship? And as you do that, just give us your closing words.
Thank you so much for the privilege. There is so much to be done for leaders to keep the fire of leadership burning, to ensure that it's sustained. And first and foremost is to ensure that they continue to do what they are doing and be innovative, because the Nigerian society is very dynamic in the sense that things are changing. So they have to adjust to the needs of the society, particularly of those people that they lead. And when I'm talking about leading, it stems from either from the family system up to leadership of the country. And of course, I had made mention of the fact that some of our institutions that are not strong enough, so we need to strengthen them. We have to look at issues like punishment and reward system in the country. And of course, by the time institutions like Nigerian Prize for Leadership decide to recognize the contribution of some of these leaders and promote it further, it will give a kind of beacon of hope to other people that could do more. And I had made mention of the role of the larger society to help these leaders whenever they are doing the right thing, to encourage them to do the right thing. And people should aspire to know that we don't have to reserve judgment till the judgment day. Nigerian society and the use of these days, they are very, very critical. Just like the environment I left, the military, the soldier of the 60s or the soldier of the Second World War was entirely different with the soldier of the 60s that fought the Civil War. Now we have the 79 NAs, we have the 2000 NAs. Their value system has changed. So you have to adjust your leadership to suit that purpose, at the same time keeping your eyes to the ball of responsibility. And we should, as a nation, as a society, to almost promote, good value system. And we should always promote the ability to serve, not willingness to serve. I can bet you, not just the leadership, even the followership will be better off, and the Nigerian society will be better for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. And I now want to invite the rest of the panelists, starting with Chimdi, and then we have Rukeya to quickly give us their closing words as we wrap up. And then after which we are going to take the resolutions that the highlights of the discussions we have had today. And then finally, there are a few more questions for the Executive Secretary of Nigerian Prize for Leadership, which we will take just before we round up. So, can we have your closing words, Chimdi Nyeliako?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Thank you once again to the Board of Trustees, Nigeria Prize for Leadership, all the very eminent and distinguished panelists. In closing, I think I just want to take a cue from the last speaker, Brigadier General Usman, retired, and to say that even as we nothing also stops us from as a means of mentorship. Do is those who have not met the mark in terms of the criteria that the Nigeria Prize for Leadership has set, they should also be called out, and people should know why they were not among those who were selected to be mentors to young people. So finally, I just want to thank all my mentors on this platform, from Professor Jerry Ghana to Professor Anya, to Dr. Christopher Kolade, to Mama Awunshika, Mama Josephine, everybody here. I want to say a very big thank you, Professor Yebode. Thank you for being mentors to us from afar and also from near. So thank you so much. In closing, I know that I think Mr. John Momo has left, but I feel it's good to mention this. Last year in July 2019, when myself and a coalition of young people went to the National Assembly to make a position on the recent election then of the principal members of the Senate and the House of Reps that had questionable characters. It just took a simple email. I wrote an email to the chairman of Channels Television, telling him that this is what young people want to do. As leader of that coalition, and Channels TV gave us free coverage. None of their reporters asked us for brown envelope. They gave us very good reportage, and I did not know Mr. John Momo from anywhere. That was just something that he did for us. So it shows that these are people who are really mentors indeed, who stick to what they say, and not just people who do things for show. So I just want to thank all my mentors on this program, including Dr. Ike Neliaku, my father and my first role model. Thank you so much, and God bless us all. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chindi. That was a lovely one. And we have Rukaya Yayi give us a closing address.
Okay, thank you so much for having me back. I really want to elaborate on the importance of leadership, you taking in charge without being in the place of authority. Anyone could be a leader in their own spaces. You really don't have to be in a position of power to be a leader. So you can be a leader wherever you are, from the classroom to your study group to wherever you are, you can be a leader. A leader is just someone that makes impact in someone's life and someone that can influence. So you start practicing now before your turn comes. So you really don't have to be in a place of authority. I always get, people always ask me these questions: are leaders born or are leaders made? So I think leaders could be born and leaders could be made. It could be made through training, learning, unlearning, and relearning things. And some few leaders are born to lead. So, and sometimes you decide whether you are born to do this through your by taking it as a purpose, or you decide by getting yourself equipped to be a better person to the society. So don't ask for what your nation can do for you, but what you can do for your nation. So start small, and the future is bright. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you very much, Rukaya Yayi. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure having you. We'll now go, I think Prof. Oyebode should just give us his closing address, because we didn't take that before, as briefly as he can. And then we'll go straight to the highlights of our discussions today, and some announcements. And after that, we'll take just a few questions for the executive secretary, and then we'll close.
Thank you very much, Madam. I think it's a pleasure to be here. It's something that will lead to greater things. Thank you very much for accommodating me.
Thank you so much, sir. It's been a great pleasure and honor. So I'll go quickly now to read the highlights of our deliberations today. I must apologize, we have overshot our time, but like you can see, we had several cerebral panelists, members of the panel, and then we had to take all their submissions. So here goes, summary and highlights of 5th edition of the NPL National Leadership Series, Dialogue Series. 1, we must know that the people get the leadership they deserve, and not everyone in leadership authority is a leader. Leadership is the ability to hold a torch high, to show directions, and to inculcate positive values to successor generations to emulate. 3, transformational leadership is a product of visionary leadership that empowers the followers to imbibe values and principles that will encourage society to transform and develop. The leadership that is sensitive to the need of the society and that which is conscious of the development of the nation is what we require. Nigeria has to articulate the prerequisites of leadership and put in place what succeeding leaders must look up to. We have a responsibility of grooming leaders and preparing them to assume leadership role for the next generation. Number 7, leaders have a role in agenda setting, and they must be ready to create a paradigm shift, and we must be sensitized to radically change the society. Leadership is not an entitlement, and it's neither hereditary. It is an art which can be learned by other people instead of relying on genealogy. Number 9, transformational leadership and transactional leadership are mutually exclusive. And the bottom line is that we need leadership that have impact on the people. Number 10, the core ingredients of transformational leadership are service, sacrifice, and selflessness. And the transformational leader must be exemplary and easily point to. Number 11, the exemplary and transformational leader is that who has a buy-in from the citizenry, whose programs directly address the needs of the people, guided by transparency. 12, it must be understood that transformational leaders draw from the principles of sacrifice to see their leadership position as a calling that requires self-denial in order to meet their service responsibilities to the people. 13, you would have failed as a leader if you cannot produce successors and good role models. Nigerians need conscious role models who are deliberate about bequeathing the right values to followers and mentees. 14, leaders must carry themselves with the understanding that there are people looking up to them. Hence, they must be conscious of what they do as they are reflections of the society. Given the failure of leadership over the years, we need a task force approach, and we should declare a state of emergency in raising replacement generation, and leaders must see themselves as conscious mentors to the younger ones in any leadership position. 16, role modeling and mentoring are 2 important ingredients of transformational leadership, and leaders must be at the forefront in stimulating visionary ideas that mentees can learn from, setting good standards for mentees to emulate. 17, we must collectively define a role model and what is expected of mentees in order to get the best of the process of training successor generation. Nigeria has leadership potentials, but we are inhibited by certain factors, and we must be intentional in addressing these inhibiting factors and know that change is possible. 19, Nigeria leadership journey can be likened to a plane where the pilot has not gone through training school, and we must consciously work towards rewriting our many leadership wrongs. Leadership must have 3 principles, and the motive of leaders is to have a better life for the people. And if you are a leader and nothing is changing, you are not a good leader. Leaders must lead against injustice, and they should in fact set the people free from the albatross of life. 22, leaders help people to discover themselves, work on behalf of the people, and they believe that the people should rise to the occasion. 23, leaders must make change happen. They don't wait and beg for change, and they live by living what they say. That is, they are exemplary in their behavior. 24, a good leader isn't measured by how many people have served him or serve him, but it is indeed measured by how many people he serves. True leaders learn from people, but they never become the people they learn from. They strive to be better and provide higher values and resources. 26, we must understand that good leaders do not seek followers. Followers are attracted to good leadership. When hard work is not rewarded and mediocrity is cheered, we are on the pathway to raising more mediocre people in positions of power. If leaders continue to look at their leadership position as a primary source of income and not a purpose, then we cannot be transformative in our approach to leadership, and we would have failed in the leadership learning process. 29, strategic collaboration between the elderly and the young is crucial to raising intergenerational leaders in Nigeria. The concept of transformational leadership has remained a novelty and has not received the right momentum by several people. We must therefore recalibrate our education system to inculcate the right leadership values on the younger people. 31, becoming a good leader does not just happen overnight, and it is not an accident. It is a process that requires mentoring and learning the ropes from people who have been successful in their various leadership positions. And finally, 32, the elders must have a conscious plan, not only to train the younger ones, but a successful plan must be ingrained. Those are the highlights that we have for today's 5th edition of National Leadership Dialogue Series. Before we close, I'd like to just remind us that next month, October, we will have the 6th edition of the National Leadership Dialogue Series, again, the same time, 4 p.m., and October 30th is the date. Please put it in your diary and let's meet again next month. I want to also appreciate the interpreters for their support, for being there to help us to ensure that challenged brothers and sisters are part of this process. Before we leave, I just want to ask 2 questions for the Executive Secretary. Are you ready, sir?
I'm just wondering whether the questions must go on, or is it something we can take offline? But if it's something that must happen online, please go ahead. I'm conscious of the fact that we have overrun our short way. Sorry, we have overrun our runway.
Yes, we have, but this is from one of our, we have overrun our time. I'm sorry about that, but this is from one of our partners, and they just want to ask you 2 questions. Can I go ahead?
Okay.
Most speakers talked about mentoring, and that is lacking in Nigeria. Where did we get it wrong? And then the second question, as we celebrate our Diamond Jubilee, what is the message to the leaders and followers? If you can do that as quickly as you can.
Okay, well, in terms of where we got it wrong, I think we got it wrong from the foundation. Just like General Usman said, we got it wrong from the foundation. If you look at the way our society is structured, it does not appear as if we have a deliberate plan for raising quality successors. It has been a kind of accidental issue. And most times we end up having accidental leaders. And these are things we must no longer encourage. We must come to a point that we make deliberate decisions and take deliberate actions to raise the kind of leaders we want to have. I remember at the first edition, the president of Nigerian Institute of Public Relations said that whether we want it or we like it or not, it is in our strategic interest to deliberately groom and raise the young people to become the quality or the kind of leaders that we want. Because if we do not do that, whether we like it again or not, they will become leaders. Someone who is 20 today, in the next 20 years, he becomes 40. And if you have not given him the kind of leadership you want for the nation, he will turn out influenced by the wrong leaders in our system. This is why the Nigerian Prize for Leadership has taken this as a very serious aspect of its work. To raise these young people, pay attention to them, all the elders who are on the governing board of the Nigerian Prize for Leadership could have gone home and said, well, we have done our bit. But look at them coming out. Dr. Claude is in his 85, 86 age. Professor Anya is 83, and so on. But they are concerned about what future are they leaving behind for their grandchildren and great-grandchildren. This is why they are putting all that they have together to make sure that we redefine our leadership system in this country. Hence the concept of rethinking leadership. We got it wrong from the beginning. Dr. Woshika said that we had leaders who were in their 20s, in their 30s, and they gave leadership. Perhaps that may be part of the problem because they started early, and to some extent, some of them are still leading us till today. And they did not realize that they have to invest in the younger ones and leave the stage for them and then advise them on what to do. So I agree that there is need for collaborative partnership. It has to be a deliberate action. For instance, why is it that till today, we don't have a Ministry of Youth? Why must we always attach it to Ministry of Sports? Because we have this mindset that it's only the youths that participate in sports. Therefore, push them to that place. No, we must consider having a Ministry of Youth and get a young person that we know that is a role model for other youth to take up that responsibility. As we turn 60, these are some of the things that we have to look at. We have made mistakes of the past, but we must now redefine our future and begin to engage young people to be players on our fields, not just ourselves. People like us, some of them feel that we're at my age. They feel that I'm elderly. I should leave the stage. But I keep telling them that you cannot also do it alone. I like what Mrs. Awoshika said. Why must age be the sole definition of who should lead us instead of capacity consideration as we move into the age of 60 plus? We have to look at these things. We need our elders, those of them that have demonstrated qualitative leadership over a period of time. We need them. And where possible, we need them to still take the position of leadership at certain level. But we also need to bring in the younger ones to understudy what is going on and give them deliberate opportunities to rise to that level. I think I will stop here, Madam, because of time. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Executive Secretary, NPL. You have really given us food for thought. And before we round up, I just want to leave us with these few lines for us to meditate upon. We say a mentor empowers a person to see a possible outcome and believe it can be obtained. This is by Sean Hitchcock. He's a video game developer, he's a director, he's a writer. We should consider that thought. And then we say that we need good role models, and they have to start at the top. We have talked about leadership in the country, and we know that if we get it right at the top, it will trickle down to the bottom. On that note, I want to thank all our distinguished panelists. Professor Akin Oyebode, thank you so much for your time. I want to thank Dr. Dereje Awoshika. Thank you so much, ma'am. We appreciate your time. I want to thank Chimdi Neliako for your forthright presentation. You've no holds barred. Thank you so much for that sincerity. We thank you, Prof. Abdullahi Ashafa. We are glad you were able to join us today. Mr. John Momo, we thank you very much for your time. And Rukeya Ibrahim Iyayi, we are grateful you were able to join us today. And the last but definitely not the least, Brigadier General S.K. Usman, retired. We are grateful you were able to spend time with us here this evening. And all our participants who have been here, some even joined us as early as 3 p.m. We thank you for your time. We are grateful. As you go, try and be a mentor to the people around you. Be a good role model. And indeed, what the Nigerian Prize for Leadership is looking up to, we are all going to make it happen. Thank you so much, and see you next month. My co-moderator, you want to sign off?
No, thank you very much. I signed up a long time ago. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, everyone. God bless you, and God bless Nigeria.
Thank you.